Hello and welcome to Keep Right on, a Birmingham City podcast brought to you from us here at Birmingham Live. I'm Brian Dick and I'm joined as ever by my colleague and co-host Alex Dicken, fresh from his very early start on fixtures release day, which the night before always sounds really exciting, but then on the day maybe there aren't really that many surprises. Hello Alex, how are you?
I'm good, thanks Brian. It stops being exciting when you get Reading at home first day, doesn't it?
It did scream championship, didn't it? And I don't know that there was ever much glamour to be had, to be fair. So I don't really know what we were hoping for. But Reading away, kind of been there, done that, completed it. Once you've seen Damari Gray score a hat-trick against Reading and witnessed a lesser spotted Andy Shinnie goal, I think you can file that one away. So thanks for joining us, everybody. As I said, it is fixtures release day, so we'll inevitably be discussing that. Some of the games which have caught our eye. Obviously, there is the talking point which hit the national media, suggesting that Blues might play Wrexham over in the USA. There's going to be plenty of transfer chat, and I think if we've got enough time, just a little bit of Euro 2024 chat, and I'm not going to reveal that on the running document that Alex put together, he suggested we talk about England's World Cup campaign. So that's notwithstanding.
You make me sound like I know absolutely nothing about football there, Brian.
Mate, that's what this podcast is. Right, thank you. Yeah, so fixtures release day, Alex. For early observations, you were up early. Fixtures were announced at 9:00. First thoughts?
Yeah, so I don't think it's the worst start in the world. You know, Reading at home. Reading finished 17th last year with a little points deduction as well. No great shakes. I wouldn't expect them to be right up there in League One next year. A couple of away games that do scream League One: Wycombe and Leyton Orient. I've never actually been to Leyton Orient, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then I'm just going to quickly get it up so I remember. And Blues finished the month of August with a home game against Wigan. There's a key run of games actually coming up in September, early October for me that really struck out. Wrexham starts with them, then Rotherham away, Peterborough and Huddersfield at home before Charlton away. I actually think all five of those teams may be in promotion contention. So I think that'll take us 10 games in total. So that's probably going to tell us where Blues are at, whether they're going to be a team that's challenging for promotion, lingering around the playoffs, whether they're going to be a team that's competing for the automatics, or whether, as we hope, they're going to be a team that's too good for its peers and run away with the league or be right at the top of the league. I think we'll know after 10 games this year. Having said that, Brian, I think after 10 games last year, we looked at the table quite excitedly, and then lo and behold, it ended with Blues finishing 22nd. So I don't really want to count my blessings too early.
Yeah, 11 games, fifth or sixth place, the only direction Blues were going to be leaving the Championship was via the front door. So yes, you are right. Hopefully, they've got then we're not going to be set or need any managerial U-turns in the coming season. I think you're right to point to those as the key games. I think ones I'm looking forward to, and inevitably it's the places you've not been. So Leyton Orient, I've not been to. That's on August the 24th, as you say. Crawley, I've never been to. Maybe didn't necessarily want to go there on Saturday, December the 21st, but
cold.
That will be cold, and it will be a long way away, as it always is. I guess the script is just waiting to be written or to be played out. Last day of the season, Cambridge away, Saturday, May the 3rd, managed by Alex.
Gary Monk,
captained by Michael Morrison. Yeah, indeed. So that's one that leaps out. The Christmas stroke New Year period's been reasonably kind. I think 2 home matches and a trip to Stockport on New Year's Day.
It's been kind to my Christmas plans, definitely. It was last year though, wasn't it? Really, although Stoke put me in a right bad mood on Boxing Day. Burton Albion at home on Boxing Day. and Blackpool at home on the 29th, and then a trip to Stockport County. That's not a million miles away, to be fair, on New Year's Day. And then Wigan on the 4th, although that game could be moved if Blues obviously get to the third round of the FA Cup. So yeah, I don't think that's pretty kind to us all. I think at Christmas, I think most fans will be happy about that. But Burton at home on Boxing Day does very much reek of League One, doesn't it?
It does. Nothing also says League One like the Easter campaign. Good Friday, April the 18th, Crawley at home. Monday the 21st, Easter Monday, Burton away. I mean, that really does say League One, doesn't it? Alex, what's the situation with international breaks? Because obviously in the Championship, it would have been a de rigueur to have a break for those international weekends. Where are we in League One?
Yeah, so it's a bit tricky because obviously as things stand, Blues do have international players. Jordan James is a regular for Wales. Sung Ho Pek's a regular for South Korea at the moment, and Juninho Bakuna is ever present for Curacao. So they've got 3 internationals, and if you have 3 internationals, you are allowed to postpone your game during the international window. So the first opportunity for that comes in September. Exeter City away on September 7th. That's the first international window of the season. So if Blues do have 3 players called up, and as things stand, as I said, there's a good chance they will, then they will be able to get that game postponed and have 2 weeks off between their game against Wigan on the 31st of August and their game against Wrexham on the 14th of September. There's another window in October, another one in November, and obviously there's going to be one in March as well, the final one of the season. So there's 4 potential games that Blues could have postponed if they do have enough international call-ups. Obviously, it remains to be seen whether those players I mentioned stay at the club beyond the end of the transfer window. But you even look at Blues, they've got George Hall, who's been around the England youth setup with the under-19s and 20s. Ramel Donovan's just made a really good debut for the England under-18s. He's going to be a first-team player next year, so Blues can use him and say he's an international if he does get called up, and can count him towards their total. So the likelihood, I think, at the moment is that Blues will have international breaks off. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not so sure, because inevitably, if Blues do have those 4 fixtures off and have to play them midweek, there's going to be potential weather postponements to think about, because not all of these League One stadiums have the ground staff and facilities that Blues have to keep the pitch in good condition. And then you also, think that if Blues do hopefully go deep into the Bristol Street Motors Trophy and get to the final, there'll be further postponements there. So you don't want to be getting to March, when the good weather starts to come back, and have 4 or 5 games in hand on other teams. So you've got to really cram them into the final 2 months of the season.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned Bristol Street Motors there. There's obviously the Carabao Cup as well. Blues will be in round 1 of that for the first time, obviously, in a very long time. When are those 2 competitions drawn?
They're tomorrow, aren't they? This is your domain. You've been pestering me all morning about this. So, is it?
Yes, 27th. It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, we know obviously Blues are already going to be in a group with Shrewsbury, another League One side who Blues playing pre-season, and also Walsall, a League Two side who Blues playing pre-season. So there's going to be another under-21 side for a Premier League club added to this group. But interestingly, Aston Villa cannot be that club, because Blues have been drawn in the southern section of the competition rather than northern section. It's all really weird, but obviously they've done that so that Blues and Aston Villa's under-21s do avoid playing each other in the group stage. So yeah, I don't know whether I'm looking forward to that competition. I think it'll be more of a chance for Chris Davies to blood some of the younger players. I'd be absolutely stunned, if someone like Christian Bielik is wheeled out for that competition. I can't see it happening. Unless Blues do, go very far and get to the semi-finals final, then yes, it becomes a trophy to win. I think Blues have got to view it like the top clubs in the Premier League view the Carabao Cup, the EFL Cup, and say, we'll blood some youngsters in the early rounds, and then if we get to a point when we can see a victory or a potential trophy, then we start taking it really seriously. But at the start, I'd be happy with Blues playing a weakened team and focus on their league form and other cup competitions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the league situation is priorities 1 through 100, isn't it? So it absolutely makes no sense to take any risks with key personnel in the Bristol Street Motors as it is now. Interestingly, whenever it's named after has a car connection, Blues win it. So they've won the Leyland DAF, they've won the auto windscreens. It seems only natural that where are we now? The Bristol Street Motors is the next, and I wonder if they get to keep the trophy for winning it 3 times.
Well, haven't Blues are among the most successful teams in this competition, aren't they? I'm sure.
Well, I mean, they've been down in the third tier, I think, twice, and they've won it on both occasions at some point. So. Yeah, I mean, it's almost guaranteed. You can probably book your April hotel just outside Wembley now. Yes, that's the fixtures. The Carabao Cup obviously is drawn tomorrow. That's also north and south. That's sort of north and south split as well. But the big Premier League, certainly the Premier League teams that are playing European football don't come into it until the third round, and then the Championship teams enter it in the second round. So, yes, a little bit more League One sensations from that tomorrow when we find out the opponents, no doubt. Which brings us on to the story that emerged at the start of the week. This suggestion, I think it was in the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, that Blues had asked to play their League One fixture against Wrexham. Tom Brady's Blues had asked to play their League One fixture against Ryan Reynolds. And what's the other chap called? Rob McElhenney. McElhenney, yeah. Asked to play that over in the United States. The mere suggestion of which has produced something of a meltdown. I suppose the first question, Alex, is what has actually happened there? Is it as reported? Have Blues asked the EFL to toddle off to New York and play a League One fixture over there?
There's so much kind of come from this, hasn't there? So, as far as I understand, there was never any actual request, any official request put into the EFL to say from either club to say we would like to, play this fixture in the United States. That isn't to say nothing has been mentioned about it. I'm of the belief that there has been a conversation, potentially, a hypothetical conversation where someone has said, we've got a big American audience influence with Tom Brady. They've got a huge American Canadian following with their 2 owners, both of who are among the highest paid actors in the world. Could we sell this game in America? That's what I believe has happened. There's been nothing official. The EFL and Blues aren't commenting on this story, but it's probably opened a conversation, opened a discussion about what probably feels inevitable at this point, that an English league game will be played abroad, overseas. There's been talk of Premier League games potentially going to the US. Inevitably, Saudi Arabia, with the finances and wealth they have, will eventually enter that conversation. I don't think it will be long. I think in the next 10, 15 years, we'll see a Premier League game played overseas. I think it's, I don't know whether the words, I think that the Blues might be trying to be a little bit innovative by looking at saying, while the Premier League are napping, maybe the EFL, maybe the League One, maybe we can take a League One game abroad and become the first to set this trend. I think it's probably, even having the conversation maybe is a little misjudged, because I don't think many fans would be happy with it, especially, the paying fans who go to St Andrews every week aren't going to be wanting to, they're not going to be able to go to America to watch a Blues League game against Wrexham either, let's be honest. But I don't think anyone who suggests taking an English EFL League One game to America is thinking about those fans. He's thinking we want our 15,000 season ticket holders to come to Miami and watch this game between Birmingham City and Wrexham. They're thinking about an audience, an American audience, aren't they? They're thinking about what they can attract and the exposure they can get commercially and from supporters as well, and creating new fans. It doesn't sit particularly well with me. I wouldn't want it to happen, but I think inevitably in the next 10 to 15 years, it probably is going to happen.
I can't remember whether you said it was a mistake or ill judged to have the conversation. I think they're perfectly entitled to have the conversation. To be fair, Knighthead, they've said they're in it for the long haul. We have to believe they're in it for the long haul. They are trying to investigate ways, a bit of blue sky thinking, a bit of a brainstorm, ways to increase revenue, which is going to be absolutely key to get them going where they want to go and where I think we all want them to go. So there are going to be, lots of ideas. And on the same way, for me, this conversation is on a similar spectrum, to what they've done with the club class, and potentially moving some supporters or increasing the ticket value a lot of areas in the sort of around the director's box in the cop stand. There are going to be some growing pains and some difficult conversations and some uncomfortable ideas about how Blues change their model and sort of accelerate themselves and put supreme fuel into the tank where previously it's only sort of been the basic fuel. Now it's at what point that you become uncomfortable with those conversations. So for some, increasing the ticket price in the club class areas, that was a step too far. And for others, taking a game, although we don't think it's going to happen, taking a game to the US, for me, that's too far. But Knighthead are looking at ways to generate income and to give themselves a bigger pie to cut for Chris Davis. And I'm certainly not opposed to that at all, because I think as responsible owners, they can't just let it wither on the vine. They are putting their money where their mouths are. They've spent a lot of money on the stadium already. They've got massive plans for a new stadium. They have to generate revenue, and whether we like it or not, things are going to change at St Andrews and at Birmingham City. And everyone will have their own version of, well, that change is too much, or that's a step too far. For me, the club class thing is uncomfortable, but I can understand it. For me, the USA thing, that's off the table. That is a step too far. But people will have their own judgments because they have their own relationships with Birmingham City.
No, I agree. I think none of us would have been uncomfortable with Blues going to the USA for pre-season, would we? Because a lot of clubs do that, and there's so many American-owned clubs now in the Premier League and also throughout the Football League that a lot of them do go to the US pre-season. Wrexham actually went to the US last year for their pre-season campaign. I think it's more whether you as a club can sell your brand to the US audience as to whether you can actually go over there. And Wrexham clearly weren't selling it through their players; they were selling it through their owners, weren't they? So maybe Blues could do something similar by further exploring the Tom Brady link and having him front and centre of a pre-season campaign as their owner sort of thing. Yeah. And obviously Knighthead would have their own contacts in their own right. Matt Alfres is a famous film producer over there, isn't he? So there's lots of scope for that. But yeah, the league fixture thing, it will happen, and I'd probably be more comfortable with it going to the US than going to Saudi. But it's just it doesn't really feel right, and it's got to be a level playing field. Blues have got to play a home fixture at St Andrews. When they play the return fixture, it's got to be at the Racecourse ground, and every other League One game home and away. It wouldn't make sense to play one fixture in America. It would feel like an exhibition match, and that's not what football is or should be.
I know you hate it when I start talking about the NFL, but the NFL are down this line. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a home game, a home inverted commas game, not in Jacksonville, but at Wembley. So their seasons every year. So the Jacksonville Jaguars season ticket holders are left with this decision to make: am I going to buy a season ticket for one game fewer? Do I feel betrayed, or am I looking at this as a brilliant opportunity to go to London? So, the American owners are coming at it from that kind of angle. And let's face it, they do know the American market. There's examples in our industry, Alex, where the media organisation are waking up to growing American interest in English football, aren't there? So Knight, it is a very untapped market. Is the point I'm making, and Knighthead, I think, are right to look at it. As I said earlier, I think taking a league fixture there is not for me. It's beyond my comfort level. But I don't think they're doing their job as owners if they're not looking at all the markets, and particularly one they have some knowledge of, and investigating it. And as I said, people will have their own relationship with Blues to think about what is acceptable and what's a step too far.
Maybe, Brian, a consultation process with fans would be good for things like that. I think.
Yeah, I would. Do you not canvass all the 15, 16, 17,000 season ticket holders, and they all go, no, I don't want to, and then that becomes it. Is it that kills the idea straight away, or
potentially? Yeah, because I think I don't think that's ever gonna work if you do consult fans, because fans won't want that to happen unless how many planes would it take to transport 15,000 Birmingham City fans or 20,000 Birmingham City fans to the US?
Well, they've travelled in huge numbers in the Europa League campaign, so there is a certain amount of precedent for a blue army travelling overseas. I wonder if it's something they could put on the agenda for the next open house and explain the thinking a little bit, and be not only be on send, but be on receive a little bit as well. So it is a bit more of a dialogue. But I think we have to accept they're going to be having some fairly innovative conversations, haven't we?
Yeah, they're trying to be different and think outside the box, aren't they? First, I'd be more comfortable with pre-season.
Yes, yeah, that's what I bet you would. Yes, free trip to America, anyone? Yes, which brings us to the obviously the transfer window is open. There's a few now. Chris Davis has got his feet under the table. There are a few names emerging in terms of potential targets. Got 3 written down here. Obviously, Blues will have lists and lists and lists of players in each position. But the 3 we're going to pick out today are Dan. The first one is Dan Scarr. Can you give us any insight into Blues links with Dan Scarr, please?
I don't know where the Dan Scarr thing came from, to be honest. It just seemed to gain quite a lot of traction very, very quickly, and then a story in another outlet did appear. From what I've been told, Dan Scarr isn't on Blues' agenda at the moment. He obviously played for the club before, has done really well actually to kind of force his way back up to the Championship with, via Walsall and then Plymouth Argyle, and did okay last season for them, I think, towards the end of the season when they were kind of scrapping to stay in the Championship at Blues' expense. But as far as I'm aware on him at the moment, I don't think that's a go or even a starter. So yeah, he's not as far as I'm aware, not a player of interest.
Right. Okay. Scarr, as you say, was at Blues. He came to Blues, I think, from Stourbridge, and sort of signed a deal to sort of learn how to be a professional, which he did in the under-21 setup, and then he never actually made a first team appearance for Blues. As you say, went to Walsall, and then on to Plymouth. He did well in League One with Plymouth. There's a real sort of headache kick it without being disrespectful. Kind of Mark Roberts-esque kind of centre half for Plymouth. Obviously came up with him from the Championship. Then last season was an odd one for him. He started and he retained his place, and sometimes the captaincy under Stephen Schumacher. Schumacher went to Stoke, and then Ian Foster, who came in, wanted to sort of get his back four playing, or his defence playing. Dan Scarr dropped out of the squad, missed probably 10 games. And then it was when Ian Foster went that Neil Jusnik brought him back in, and he put in some really good displays again, playing within his strengths. And he was absolutely immense against Leicester City when Plymouth won 1-0 in April. But yeah, so you can understand why why the link has been made. But as you say, it doesn't sound as though it's an active link at the moment. One that maybe has some legs, although it may be a very, very, very long race and the legs might not be strong enough to win this race, is Tobias Lauritsen, a Norwegian target man. currently playing with Sparta Rotterdam. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research into him yesterday, and he looks a really, really useful player. And I know he's the technical director of his current club, Sparta Rotterdam, has been talking him up as a minimum €5 million player. I think that kind of shows Blues' ambition more than anything else. There's clearly some interest there, but as you say, Brian, they're probably in a queue for him. There's going to be Dutch clubs. I think he's been talked for a move to Feyenoord, who have obviously just won the Dutch league title. Going to be a fair few interested parties. Trabzonspor in Turkey is said to be interested in him. So, yeah, I think it's one of those that you probably put it in the Scott Twine bracket and say you're probably above the level we're playing at. But if the other teams at that level can't afford to get you out of your current club, then we are a club that might be able to. So they're kind of, through finances and ambition, put themselves in a position where they could, attract that caliber of player, which, I think it's a good thing because you are looking for good players that can not only get you into the championship, but can also help you straight away as soon as you get there, compete and be towards the top half of the league and, trying to get into the playoffs, into the promotion mix. But it probably lends itself to frustration that we have at the moment. The Blues have only signed one player this summer because they are waiting for a better quality of player than, some of their League One rivals are for sake.
Yeah, indeed. I know on one of the previous Q&As we did, somebody asked, are we concerned that Blues are wasting time on unrealistic targets? I think you've got to ask the question, haven't you? It probably doesn't take a huge amount of scouting hours to work out that Lauritsen might be a new Djukovic, or an upgrade, not an upgrade on Djukovic, but a sort of a refurb on Djukovic, someone who can be that target man. And then, if the price is too much or the answer is no, you move on. And I don't think you've lost a huge amount of time. I think I'm probably buoyed by the fact that they're looking a little bit beyond the end of their noses. Hopefully that connection is data driven rather than just a friend of a friend, who happens to know somebody that knows somebody at Blues. Hopefully the process is a little bit more rigorous than that. I don't mind them looking at those targets, to be honest with you. It is quite exciting. The other one is a name we'll know, is Bailey Peacock Farrell. He's been linked again by the national press. Much in that, and I think that's probably a sign that Blues, that we potentially are looking at a live goalkeeping competition, aren't we at Birmingham City?
Yeah, that's the impression I've been getting. Obviously, Ryan Reynolds. The thing with Ryan Reynolds, he's a goalkeeper that has done well and played regularly in the Championship over the last 3 years. But I don't think he's a goalkeeper that's going to necessarily intimidate another goalkeeper coming into the club. Who's going to think, he's going to be number one? It's going to be a live competition. I think they're going to sign 2 players to jostle for that number one position. Bailey Peacock Farrell, 27 years old, has championship experience with Leeds, with Sheffield Wednesday. I think he did for a season. I'm not sure.
They were League One. Yeah.
So he's got AFL experience, got League One experience. He's at a good age, still the number one for Northern Ireland. I don't remember him being particularly bad with his feet when he was at Leeds. I know he started playing for Leeds. He played under Bielsa, didn't he? When Bielsa first went there. So I don't remember him being bad with his feet at Leeds. I'm not sure how much of that game he's developed in the last 5 years since he left Leeds for Burnley. He's not played an awful lot for Burnley, I think 24 games. I don't think he'd be an awful option, to be honest. I think he'd be another decent, good League One goalkeeper on the face of it. And again, it would, like you say, Brian, it would create a live goalkeeping competition with Allsop.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, what is he? He's 27. Gosh, is he that old? Played 140 odd professional games. He's a good size. Footballing wise, I mean, there would have been an expectation on him from Bielsa to be decent with his feet, or at the very least competent. So yeah, the connection does make sense. He struggled for game time last season, didn't he? Did he end up on loan in Denmark?
Yeah.
So obviously, Burnley have been quite blessed with goalkeepers in the time he's been there. I think he's been there for 5 years now, and hasn't played a huge amount of games there, but has been going out on loan. From his point of view, he'd probably be looking at an opportunity to go, well, this is where I want to sort of lay my hat, sort of thing, and have a good 2 or 3 year career, and actually get some first team games. So, yeah, again, I think that is quite an engaging transfer link, and I am buoyed by the fact that there is, there are discussions about having that competition at goalkeeper, which we said, ever since Blues said they wanted to start playing out, but it's always started with the goalkeeper, hasn't it? So yeah, interesting. If you've got any thoughts or comments on any of the names that we've discussed there, or other names, and please do add them if you're watching on YouTube. Alex, I suppose we're going to do it. England's Euro 2024 campaign. They were on last night. Wasn't massive. Was it better? Was it just about better than the Denmark game?
I genuinely think, having watched most of the games in this Euro so far, that England's 3 games have been among the 5 worst, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to watch, isn't it? We could be so much more. I thought against Denmark, we, again, looked okay at the start and then never really built on the first few minutes. And then there was that one spell, I think, in the final, was it 75 minutes onwards, where they actually kept winning the ball back from Slovenia every time they cleared it, and were kind of petting them in a little bit, but then without really creating anything clear cut. It's frustrating, isn't it? And having very much at the start of the tournament being like, it's coming home, as you always are before a tournament starts. You watch the first few games and you're just convinced that it's not coming home at all.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would say I'm old enough to have seen a few of the slow builds. In Italian 90, it was a games against Ireland, Holland, and Egypt were a real tough watch, and then Bobby Robson sort of alighted upon a back three with Mark Wright coming into the side, and that kind of proved that change of shape gave him the impetus to go on to the semi-finals. I don't think Euro 96 was. Actually, no, the Holland game in the group game in Euro 96 was very good. Scotland, obviously, they beat as well. Was it Switzerland, the other game? I don't think that was brilliant. And then more recently, Euro 2020, that was a slow burner as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Scotland draw first game, and I think I was having a meltdown then as well. So I'm hoping that, because I think we're all kind of the same opinion, aren't we? That the issue is the left wing, and that Foden's not giving us enough width. Well, between him and Trippier, we're not getting enough width. Yeah. Jude Bellingham, he's probably blocking Foden from playing that 10 position, because Jude can also play in that 8 position very well. So maybe drop Jude back and bring Foden inside. Then your option on the left to stretch the defence is Anthony Gordon. He gave him 90 seconds last night. In that 90 seconds, to be fair to Anthony Gordon, he probably did as much as anyone who's played out wide for England on that left wing has done in this tournament so far. So maybe he has, in 90 seconds, played his way into contention for that knockout game.
Yeah, I thought so. The bit of natural width really helped. I think that hole that Jude and Foden and even Kane at times dropping off, it's become really gummed up, hasn't it? And there's no width on the left, and we've been looking for sweeping diagonals from Kane to set Saka away on the right, and just the sort of the rigidity of the attacking play. No one in space, not much movement off the ball. I thought it was quite hard work last night trying to pick the way through a very solid 4-4-2 that Slovenia were. When obviously the space was out wide, and I just couldn't see why that couldn't be seen by people who know about way more about football than you or I. Hopefully, as you say, we saw enough from Gordon and Cole Palmer. Again, Palmer brought a zest, didn't he? I don't know that he's a natural wide player either, particularly. So if you do play Foden, Palmer, and Gordon, and drop Jude back, you're asking either Foden or Palmer to sort of play a bit wider than they might like to. But there was undoubtedly a desire to take a man on, wasn't there, from Palmer and try and find a player in space or run beyond the defence, which was good.
They all want to be the 10, don't they? And I think that one of the things that's really frustrating me is that Southgate's almost made Jude's position a problem, hasn't he? In that he's kind of pigeonholed him as a 10 for the last year because he's been playing there so brilliantly for Real Madrid. And probably Jude has probably been the best number 10 in the world over the last 12 months. But I think it's a unique set of circumstances at Real Madrid as to why he plays there, because they've got such depth in those midfield positions, those 6 positions. You look at, Camavinga, Modric, Kroos, Valverde, Tchouameni. They've got 5 absolutely world-class players who can all play that position, but probably can't play the number 10. So Jude can do them all. So he plays 10. Yeah. I think it just makes sense, given how many number 10s we've got, how many really good number 10s we've got, to just drop Jude back next to Rice. And you saw how well Jude played in that position in those final 15 minutes against who do we play second? Denmark. Against Denmark, when he slid that little ball through to Watkins, where he perhaps could have done better. So I just want to see Jude in that position. I want to see Foden in the middle. I want to see Gordon out wide left, Saka wide right, players who can go beyond Harry Kane, because it's taking so much away from his game as well, having them all, as you say, clumped up in that little area.
Yeah. Indeed. Right. So I think we'll call it there. So Blues now know who they're going to be playing in what order in the 2025 season. Give us your thoughts on the fixtures list. As I say, give us your thoughts on transfer talk and players and positions that you'd like to see Blues go for. Right in thinking, Alex, the players are back in next Monday. Is that right?
They are, July the 1st. I think there's going to be 2 days of testing, then a day off, and then pre-season will really kind of shift into gear in the few days before they go to Austria for that camp.
Yeah, so we're nearly there, everybody. Thank you all for your interest and your continuing support. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, hit follow, do whatever you can to interact with us. It really helps. It's a keep right on from Alex, and it's a keep right on from me.